So just a quick little review on the 1/4 scale neca Ironman, which is the battle damage version, which is the headless version, and I've got a feeling that I've sussed what is wrong with this head sculpt, and it's because they've done the face too narrow and too long. So, for example, like if you put the head sculpt from this guy next to him, you'll kind of see what I mean, like. Yeah, or any head sculpt. If you put any neca head sculpt next to him of any scale, well, not sorry, not any scale, of anyone in the 1/4 scale, like, see what I'm saying? Look, I'll hold that there to where his chest is, and then the same with this guy, and you'll see what I mean. And obviously the paint application. It seems like most of the paint applications for these Iron Man are all the same, where they've kind of like, I think it feels like they've done Robert Downey Jr. dirty for a deliberate reason for getting the head sculpt. I think maybe what I've come to the conclusion of is when they first put the dimensions to this in the computer to build the molds from them, is they just got the length and the width the wrong way around. Because, like, don't get me wrong, it's a brilliant head sculpt from like some angles. But, like, from other angles, it's, yeah, as you can tell. But I'm not knocking it, though, because this is an absolute amazing figure as a whole. But, there's not really that much it can be done unless you do the modify. I am gonna do something to this. In fact, I'm gonna get a spare, and I'm gonna turn that into a Doctor Doom. Give it a green paint application. Yeah, change up a few bits to it. So yeah, just a little review, just to say that I think I've sussed out what's kind of, and obviously the moustache as well. They've they've made that bottom lip from the nose to bottom top of lip. Apologies, the top lip. They've literally just done it a bit too elongated. So. Really, I think that everybody that's bought one of these figures, if you want me to be honest with you, I think NECA should reissue a Tony Stark head sculpt for about £20 or £30. Just a head sculpt. Just a good head sculpt for this, that's all. And that will satisfy everybody. But, NECA won't do it, because we all kind of know what NECA's like, even though they're an amazing figure company. Like, I don't, like, my little problem is that they've spent all this work and to spend. Oh, by the way, I've got one of the ones with the good legs, people. Apologies for that. But yeah, mine aren't crazily kind of like one long leg more elongated than the other, even though it is slightly, but nothing major to moan about. But I can't believe they spent all this time on doing this absolute amazing sculpt for the body of these 1/4 scale NECA Tony Stark Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. And then they kind of fumbled on the head a bit, It's just like, yeah, I was just looking at it earlier, and it just screamed out to me the fact that, after looking at like pictures online of Robert Downey Jr. to then comparing it to this figure, is that like the face and also it just seems like whoever was painting this head sculpt in the factory that day just seemed to like it's like also the Gal Gadot, the NECA DC Gal Gadot. Wonder Woman. It's also like almost every single one of hers. One eye sort of painted slightly up and one eye's painted slightly down on almost every single picture I've seen of that figure. So I'm just actually wondering, is there anybody out there, or did any of these figures escape the NECA factory with obviously there's nothing that could be done about the elongated head sculpt, but did any of these figures escape the factory with true straight eyes where the paint application didn't leak onto the bottom bit of the eyelid to make the eyes look all proper weird, and it looks like he's suffering from a severe case of PTSD and side-eyeing. I tell you what, I used to know somebody called Paul Burrow that passed away not so long ago, No, don't feel sorry for the guy. He drunk himself to death anyway. If you want to feel sorry for him, that's completely up to you, but I'm not going to feel sorry that I literally saw and witnessed somebody literally drink himself to death on the couch, and I was doing everything I can to try and save him, and there was no saving him at all, but never mind. But that head sculpt room, and people will agree with me that, if they see this video, and they know who I'm talking about, people will agree with me that that looks like Paul Burrow. Because Paul Burrow had a bit of a funny, it's like I've jokingly said to people that they didn't do this head sculpt after Robert Downey Jr. They accidentally did it on somebody that I knew called Paul Burrow. But anybody out there from Grimsby that knew who Paul Burrow was, message and try and say that doesn't look like him. Go on. Basically, I might just leave that as it is. And start saying, "Nah, mate, that's Paul Burrow." People that know will be like, "Oh yeah, looking at it. You know what? I'm going to invite a couple of people around there that I know over time, if they want to, of course. I'm going to invite a couple of people around over time, and I'm going to tell them to look at that and go, look, I've got a custom Robert Burrow head sculpt for my Tony Stark Ironman. I'm like, what? And I'll walk up to it, and I'll be like, nah, I'm just, because they'll actually think I've done that if they're not familiar with the figure, and then I'll be like, nah, mate, just kidding. That's the way that it come out of the factory. But yeah, no word of a lie. Like, you know, it's a shame I haven't got a picture to refer to him as, but never mind. So yeah, that's just my little review and my little take on this absolutely amazing and awesome figure that I got for an absolute bargain. Even though I've only just got the things off today because by the way, everybody out there that owns either one of these figures or the Iron Man ones, please just go onto the battery compartment and loosen them up a bit, because the other thing with these figures is from the factory, it seems like they literally power tooled these things shut, and they only needed closing lightly. But then I'm guessing that over time with them sat in the box for ages, they're obviously like heat and cold, like heating it up and cooling it down over years. I'm guessing must have expanded the plastic to the point where they got a bit seized up there, because these ones were rock hard to get out. The chest light wasn't working. None of the hand ones were working, but I only had batteries to change, the chest one and that one. Luckily the eyes one was still working, and then the batteries that I took out for the rest of them, I kind of just mixed them together, and they still had held a little bit of charge to see, for example, you can see how, well, actually it looks quite bright on there, but how dim it is compared to this one, for example. There's me trying to put my phone there to get the light, realising it's the other way around. So actually, it looks a lot brighter on there compared to what it does in person. But I will be getting some more batteries to change the ones in. But I'm dreading trying to get the one open on his head then, compared to how hard these were. And these ones were so seized, but the one in his back, I'm gonna have to actually maybe take that somewhere to get that one changed up, because the one in his back is so seized up that, But saying that though, I've only got pretty rubbish screwdrivers and that at the minute, because And the other thing is that both of his hands, the bit to flip the light on and off is kind of snapped off on that one, and it's barely hanging on that one. So the place I'm going to take it to get it repaired, hopefully they can do something with that. I don't even mind if they can flip the switch from inside the actual electronic compartment in there to the point where it's just on continuously, and then by the way, I don't understand why they were so they were screwed in so hard on his, because I literally didn't even put, look, when I put them back on, I didn't even put the screw back in there, because they just clip in quite tight there. So in my opinion, they didn't even need the screws in them anyway. And this one was quite when batteries go bad in there, and they were anyway. So hopefully that's why I want to get the back compartment off, because I want to check the battle. But it's all good, because like I said, one of these, well, not this one particular, I'm gonna get the unbattle damaged version of this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the head swap with that one to this one, and then I'm gonna use this head sculpt for when I do and use that, and possibly use that body and this head sculpt to do a custom Doctor Doom figure on them. But yeah, I'm going to be doing loads of different custom figures over time. I've got spare figures, I've got a spare Daredevil, I've got a spare this, I've got a spare that to do customs on later on. So I've got a spare one of him that I'll be doing a custom on. When I move, I will do full reviews on these figures, guys. I'm just literally just in the middle of moving right now, and when I move and I've got everything set up, then I will start doing reviews, but I'm going to do it in a different way than everybody else. I put my thinking cap on and get my creative juices flowing, and I'll decide on I'll basically decide on how I want to review these figures. But yeah, I'm going to do it quite a unique, individually creative person anyway, so I'll come up with some ideas, you know. And then just like maybe also just showing off a little things that people can very easily do themselves, you know, just to, you know, give it just a little bit extra type of thing. And, you know, obviously you know where that comes from. That's the Predator Dutch, and then that's the one that came with Deadpool, and a little bit of blue tack on that. And so yeah, so this figure, I think it's absolutely amazing. It's just a shame that they got the dimensions for his head sculpt a little bit wrong and messed up, and the paint application, you know. So yeah, because there's nothing that can really be done to, like, you know, I mean, unless you're like a unless you're like a master sculptor or something, then there's no way to actually literally like make the head sculpt a bit wider and a bit less elongated. Really, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing head sculpt, it really is, right? But like they could have done so much better. It's almost like the battle damaged version of Captain America came out almost exactly at the same time as this guy did, and that Captain America head sculpt, the Chris Evans playing Rogers, is immaculate. It's awesome. Even that one's awesome. I've seen people have a gripe with this one, but I can understand what you mean, because I think there's also a defect on this, people. If you actually look closer, it looks like this side of his face isn't really filled out as much as what it should be compared to the other side, and I think that's the problem with this one. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go grab a Shizawa now, but I just wanted to do that because it's been on my mind since I've discovered it and figured it out about that figure, about what's wrong with it. I've seen a couple of people do reviews on YouTube, and I'm not going against you or anything, but you've praised this head sculpt to high praise, and I'm sorry guys, but it's kind of like the worst one out of all the NECA figures they did, you know. But yeah, so I'm not saying if you don't pose him up and you don't turn him to the side and you don't put him in sort of a pose that's like, you know, so he's not looking dead on, I'm not saying that doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark, because that from the side profile, that is pretty much spot on. But then you can't really have him looking head on unless you've got him from a distance away, like for example, like, you know, but obviously that's the camera. In my point of view, from my peripheral vision, he's roughly still about that size to me, so I can still see it. But then, like, you know, so you'd have to be standing quite far away from it to not, like, you know, to not see with the naked eye then. Unless you are gonna pose him up to the side. And also, yes, you can get him in the landing position, you know, knelt down, you know, kind of landing position, the classic Iron Man landing position. So yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of a review on this figure, but not really a full review, just to show my concerns and problems with it and the things that I think that NECA should do. It would really not be hard for NECA. They probably still got the original mould and the original schematics and the original software for all the things they did and all they've got to do is go back to that computer and just type in the dimensions right again. I'm surprised there wasn't more of a little bit of an uproar when this figure first came out to like, you know, to make NECA do that, you know, with your next Iron Man figure, NECA, make sure you put the right head sculpt in there that was meant to come with this figure, you know. So yeah, and a repaint on that, really, obviously I've got to do something with the eyes, but like I said, I might not, because I think I'm going to get the Hot Toys one for this one, and I might just leave that as it is and leave it as a Paul Burrell head tone Iron Man head sculpt, or do it as a customization for the Doom figure I'm gonna go. But yeah, absolutely amazing figures, just to let you know, everyone. 1/4 scale, so 18 to 19 inches. So yeah, that's my go-to now. Throughout the years, back in the day, I used to collect the 12-inch Action Men, and then that literally evolved into this, and I'm very passionate about this collection, and I'm nowhere near done. Is in terms of, you know, and I'm going to try and get the whole collection of, not just NECA, but from Thinkway Toys, Diamond Select, Mezco, Enter Bay, and some from Hot Toys. I will literally be collecting every single 1/4 scale NECA figure, and then I'm also going to be making and customizing my own for all the figures that they didn't make. So one of the very first figures I'm going to be making and customizing, I'll keep changing my mind on what I'm going to turn the spare one of those into, because I think I'm going to do a bullseye, because I think that, like, you know, every single hero they did should have come with a corresponding villain, you know, every single one, and especially a Loki. So yeah, so I'm gonna make for now I'm just gonna make a suited Loki from the Joker Batman figure, the Heath Ledger, you know, I'm gonna literally dye and customize that and turn it green. So at least I've got some sort of form of a Loki figure, because, you know, they did him, and then the official NECA Hulk figure, because that's not. And then they did him, but they didn't do a Loki or a Black Widow. In fact, you know what? I'm not saying that NECA are not sexist in any shape or form, because but we didn't even get one female figure, you know. In DC, for DC, we got her, and we got Wonder Woman. So at least we've got 3 females with the DC line. But with the Marvel NECA line, we didn't even get one female, right? Just imagine if he came as a double pack for, you know how they did like the Ultimate Epics version of him, which is that version of that Deadpool. Well, just imagine they did an Ultimate Epics version of Daredevil, and he came with either, I don't know, they could have done a couple of different versions. One version could have been like, there was naming these figures as like 1 and 2. I don't even know why they bothered even naming them, because all we got is 2, which is the Daredevil and the Deadpool. Just imagine they carried on this line, and we had a series of the Epic Marvel line. Like, you can't even call it a series, even though it's got series written on the box, because you only did 2 figures. Like, calling it a series and doing like 2 figures in it, like, come on now, what was the point? So I genuinely believe that they actually planned on doing more figures if they decided to call it Epic Marvel and start naming it. And, well, actually, that's a little bit of a lie. We got 3 figures because we also got the X-Force version of Deadpool. But yeah, I'm literally going to be making all my own figures now, because I'm happy, and I think that these figures are amazing. My only gripe is that, well, there's not enough. I'm sorry. I'm not saying there isn't enough, because there definitely is. Like, that there is enough figures right there, 100%, no doubt. As obviously the official Hulk figures missing from that display, so, you know. But that one, don't get me wrong, I'm still unbelievably happy with this one. Absolutely, 90 quid from eBay. I could have probably got it cheaper from AliExpress, but eBay's really the only place that I order my things from. So, but you know, I propped him up a little bit there. Not even really, maybe about 2 inches, 2.5 inches, maybe 3 inches that I propped him up there, just to make him slightly higher than the rest of them, you know, because I'm pretty sure that's about the height that the actual NECA one stand. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the NECA one. I'm going to prop it up a little bit like that, so he's more taller. But I don't think I'll be able to put the Spider-Man on the other NECA, on the Hulk 1/4 scale NECA shoulder, because he's articulated. And well, this Hulk he's got articulation, and like he's got for a standard third party figure like that. And I'm pretty sure it's based on the Hot Toys version of Hulk, but just like blowing up a little bit bigger. It's like it's got articulation. It's got a wrist swivel. It's got an arm swivel. It's got a neck swivel. It's got a wrist swivel. Knee and calf. But because he's like more of a standard model, it's just stand straight up like that. That's the reason why I was able to put Spider-Man, piggyback in. Well, he's not really piggybacking. He's just kind of flipped in, if you get what I mean. He just swung in from over there somewhere. No, he swung in there from over there somewhere. And he's literally done a perfect black flip and landed straight on Hulk's fucking shoulders. At least in my mind, that's how it's gone. Anyway, that's how it's done in my mind. So yeah, so when I get the official Hulk figure, I don't think I'll be able to display it like that, because I don't know. I'll give it a try when I do get it. But what I'm going to do, people, is I'm not going to have my entire collection out on display all the time, because I think no matter how big your collection is or what scale it is, I think you're going to get bored of it just looking at it, even if you're rearranging it off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pack some of my figures away at times, have some of them out on occasion. So, like, for instance, right now I've got my DC figures out. When I get off, and I'm only doing this just to test my theory, and then in about a week's time I'm going to pack all of those away, and then I'm going to put my DC figures out. And the reason I say in a week's time is because hopefully I'll have a penguin that will be added to my 1/4 scale DC collection. I'll tell you the one that I really want to get everybody is the Wonder Woman. That one seems to be really hard to get a hold of, and the reason I want to get the Wonder Woman is because NECA didn't do many females across the line. But when I get the Wonder Woman, I genuinely believe that I have all the females that NECA ever done, because the only one that I can name off the top of my head right now without doing a bit of research is the Kill Bill figure, the Beatrix Kiddo. So yes, even just little customizations like that, whatever those things are called, the drain pipe cleaners, and and the fact that Doctor Strange uses a red kind of like sword, forms a red sword out of magic, and that's just basically him in the middle of forming his red sword, So yeah, and obviously, like, a bit of a Punisher theme, Punisher's not there, but he is being represented right now. So yeah, that's what all the guns are about that are laid out everywhere. So yeah, that's my little review on this figure, the NECA 1/4 scale battle damaged, Tony Stark. Like I said, I can't believe it's just odd to me that, don't get me wrong, I still think it's a brilliant head sculpt. I'm not trying to take anything away from it, and I'm not, because it's either way, it's still a brilliant head sculpt. But I just feel like they could have, like, just got the dimensions right. Yeah, and also put like a battle damaged Iron Man helmet in there as well, to interchangeable with that. And a neck peg as well, So yeah. Peace, everybody. Yeah, like I said, that's the only reason I upload that. I wasn't meant to go into all that other stuff, to be honest with you. This was mainly just to focus on the head sculpt of the Tony Stark one, that's all. And now I would like somebody to get back to me and let me know, and genuinely send me, like, or like, I don't know, email me some pictures, or upload a video on YouTube yourself, and direct me to that video if you have got one of these figures without it being modified and repainted, and just came straight out of the factory with straight eyes, and like, like I said, like, if they would have molded that a bit higher on the moustache as well, that would have also really done him justice as well. Because I've just realised that the moustache isn't even straight; it droops down on the left hand side. Like, come on! And if I zoom in on it, like, is the mould even there? Like, for the moustache where it hasn't been painted. See, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do something to. I might just paint it. I don't know if I'm gonna start moulding and adding bits to it. But yeah, I think if that top moustache got painted a bit higher, I think that would also make it less noticeable as well. Robert Downey Jr.'s top lip is definitely, there isn't that much of a wide space. That's and like I just said, like his head is not that elongated. That's how I just got a feeling that at the factory they just got the dimensions the wrong way around. Not the wrong way around, but you know what I mean. They got the numbers the wrong way around. I think they got the length for the width and the width for the length. And that's just my take on it, considering, as I said before, I will do this just one last time to give it that comparison. Peace, everybody. 1.